And this is a Fox News alert, and we are again reporting live tonight from Las Vegas. We are learning new information about mass murderer Stephen Paddock. His motive tonight remains a mystery, but according to reports, the gunman researched and scouted for possible attacks in Chicago and Boston, and he did, in fact, he rented a room in Vegas overlooking a separate music festival just a week before carrying out his horrific rampage. The Associated Press is also reporting that investigators, they're trying to determine whether he was planning a car bombing. Tonight, there are major questions that we need answers to. Also, Democrats, celebrities, members in the mainstream media, they continue to politicize this tragedy and push for gun control and more. Some are now even saying it's time to get rid of the Second Amendment altogether. NRA Executive Vice President and CEO Wayne LaPierre will react tonight. Also, Newt Gingrich, he'll weigh in on the impulse of the left to politicize this event before we have any facts or any information. Plus, in the aftermath of this tragedy, a heartwarming moment between President Trump and a shooting victim that is now going viral. We visited earlier today Thomas Gunderson in the hospital. He's the one that stood up to greet the president, even after, of course, being shot in the leg. After meeting the president, he wrote on Facebook, "I will never lie down when the president of this great country comes to shake my hand. There may be plenty of issues in this country, but I will always respect my country, my president, my flag. Shot in the leg or not, I will stand to show my president the respect he deserves." We'll have that interview for you a little bit later in the program. By the way, if you're associated with the NFL, I hope you're watching. Plus, I also spoke with the hero doctors that saved hundreds of lives after this Vegas shooting. But first, tonight's very important news breaking opening Vegas monologue. All right, as authorities continue to search for a motive in the Vegas massacre, we are learning chilling new details about this investigation. According to reports, Stephen Paddock may have been scouting out other potential mass shooting targets. Now, in August, he reportedly booked a hotel room in Chicago that overlooked the Lollapalooza Music Festival, but never set foot in the city. Chicago police are telling Fox News that they believe that Stephen Paddock did, in fact, book the room. Also reports tonight that Paddock researched hotel rooms in Boston near Fenway Park, where the Red Sox play. The Las Vegas Journal-Review, they are reporting that Paddock shot at jet fuel tanks nearby McCarran International Airport during this massacre. Now, 2 of the bullets hit one of the tanks, and 1 bullet actually penetrated the tank. Thankfully, that did not cause an explosion. And according to ABC News, Paddock was seen with a woman who was not his girlfriend in the days before the shooting. NBC News reporting the girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, has now told investigators that Paddock would lie in bed, moaning and screaming. And according to Clark County Sheriff Joseph Lombardo, the weekend before this mass shooting, Paddock rented and checked into a Las Vegas high-rise condo that overlooked yet another separate music festival. Now, Sheriff Lombardo also revealed last night that he thinks Paddock had to have received help and planned to survive this attack. Now, the sheriff added that 50 pounds of an explosive that's called tannerite was found in the suspect's car, along with 1,600 rounds. Now, the AP is also reporting that in addition to other possible planned attacks, Paddock may have also plotted a car bombing. Now, that information is beyond troubling. And tonight, we have questions that need to be answered. Who, if anybody, helped Paddock carry out this operation? What was Paddock planning to do with a car full of explosives that could be used to make bombs? How did Paddock plan to escape this shooting? And why did Paddock rent rooms in Chicago and Vegas during other concerts? Was he planning to do this multiple times and then try and escape? And the most important question today, of course, it remains unanswered. Why? What would motivate this individual to commit such evil atrocities against innocent men, women, and children? We need answers to all these questions. And also tonight, the left, liberals, celebrities, and the media, they continue to play politics. They're trying to use this tragedy to push and advance their gun control agenda. And tonight, some are even calling for the shredding of the Constitution and the eradicating of our Second Amendment and our right to keep and to bear arms. Now, take a look at this headline from the so-called conservative New York Times writer Bret Stephens, who is also a contributor over at that conspiracy so-called news network MSNBC. Quote, "Repeal the Second Amendment." And then Stephens goes on to write, quote, "Repealing the amendment may seem like political mission impossible today, but in the era of same-sex marriage, it's worth recalling that most great causes begin as improbable ones. Gun ownership should never be outlawed, just as it isn't outlawed in Britain and Australia, but it doesn't need a blanket constitutional protection either. Yeah, good luck in those countries getting a gun. And as we have showed you in great detail last night, banning guns does not prevent crime, just the opposite. More guns prevent crime. More guns save lives. And by the way, it appears these people on the left don't care about the Constitution. All banning guns will do is prevent good people from having the ability to protect themselves and their families from those that do us harm. And unlike a lot of these celebrities and politicians, they don't have armed guards and they don't have big houses with expensive security systems and people out there protecting them and bodyguards everywhere they go. So if people like Michael Moore, Bret Stephens, you really believe in repealing the Second Amendment, here's a simple question I need you to answer. God forbid for anybody, someone breaks into your home. Well, you have your family, your wife, your children. Would you want a gun? Would you want to have been trained in the use of a firearm and its safety to protect your wife and family? Now, what Bret Stephens is doing is shameful. He's using this massacre here in Vegas to push a liberal agenda, one that is not constitutional. And it's pretty obvious at this point that he's only pretending to be a conservative. By the way, that's a New York Times conservative. He isn't. Now, Hollywood liberal Michael Moore, he wants to repeal what he now calls the ancient and outdated Second Amendment and put in place European-style restrictions that essentially ban you, the American people, from buying arms to protect yourself and your families. Now, these Hollywood liberals, like Moore, such huge hypocrites when it comes to the issue. How many live in those gated communities? How many can afford private security? How many buy the best and most expensive security systems, but yet they would disarm law-abiding citizens who can only rely on themselves to protect their families? You want an example? Take a look at this video security from the Emmys last year. You, the American taxpayer, you foot at least some of the bill to keep these prima donna celebrities safe at their self-congratulatory red carpet award shows one after another. And security was extra tight last year because of terror threats. Now take a look at some of these headlines. No expenses spared to keep these celebrities safe and happy. Variety, Oscars, LAPD, plans for multiple scenarios with 3 tiers of security. Deadline, Hollywood, Golden Globes, ramped up security, leading to longer waits for the celebrities. Here's another headline from Hollywood. Emmys security will be severely enhanced after London subway attack. And as you can see, it is beyond the height of hypocrisy. Here's another thing that these people on the left and members of this biased, abusive press in this country will never tell you. The left doesn't believe in the Second Amendment. You heard Michael Moore say it. He thinks part of the Constitution is outdated. It's why every time tragedy strikes, the left races, rushes to judgment, pushing an agenda. Do you have a right to protect yourself, your family, your wives, your children? Now, these new examples from the liberal mainstream media, take a look at this.
Now we have to turn to renewed calls, shouts, begs for gun restrictions in the wake of the Las Vegas mass shooting.
The Second Amendment is there for a reason. You can own your gun, but does it extend to allowing an individual to own 47 guns, high-powered semi-automatic weapon guns?
The idea now that they're going to rouse themselves to action on bump stocks, that is putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. There's so much more that could be done.
If you want to buy a gun, a handgun, a long gun, if you want to buy 49 of them, feel free. But you're also going to have to buy an insurance policy, minimum of, say, 25 grand.
90% of the public, Democrats and Republicans, favor closing any and all private sale and gun show loopholes that exist.
So I asked Sarah Sanders the question, is the president, does he value the First Amendment as much as he values the Second Amendment?
And watch what Democratic Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, doesn't she have security? What she had to say about bump stocks. Now, the attachment that Stephen Paddock did use to make his semi-automatic rifle move at a faster pace, fire more like an automatic weapon. Watch what she says.
Many people who are serious gun owners say, I have a background check, they should have a background check too. But we can't, that's, so what? They're going to say if you give them bump stock, it's going to be a slippery slope. I certainly hope so. but I don't think bump stocks should be a substitute for the background check. And by the way, the background check is a compromise. There are many more things members want to do.
Nancy Pelosi, she's not even trying to hide the left's true intentions. They want to ban all guns. Democrats, the media, which is so corrupt, abusively so, and ideological, what they're conveniently not telling you, it was the Obama administration that originally approved the sale of those bump stocks back in 2010. If Democrats, you're serious about looking into bump stocks, okay, let's do it. The NRA, they came out today and said those products should be subject to regulation. Let's have the debate. Let's come up with common sense solutions, but don't take away the rights of law-abiding citizens. And what the left shouldn't be doing is using a tragedy while people are still in the hospital. And parents, I was there today. They're waiting and hoping and praying that their children will recover from the injuries. The left has their rigid, radical, anti-gun agenda, and they are wanting to disarm millions of law-abiding American citizens, and that would prevent them from being able to protect themselves, their children, their wives, their families. Here with reaction now, National Rifle Association Executive Vice President and CEO Wayne LaPierre. Wayne, good to see you again, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Sean. We're in shock and mourning, probably like everyone else out there. It's an unimaginable tragedy. A lot of our members were out there. We have friends that had family there that were wounded, and we've just been praying, and like everybody else in the country, for this unimaginable tragedy. That being said,
Wayne,
the other side is... The other side, on the other hand, has been so outright trying to politicize this tragedy that we did feel the need to speak out today on this whole bump stock issue. For years, have tried to correct the media on semi-automatics when they said they were fully automatic firearms, when Dianne Feinstein and Schumer and all the rest of them said they were machine guns. For years, I set the record straight. And then the Obama administration, a couple years ago, approves this device called a bump stock. If you take a look at it, any look at it, it takes a semi-automatic firearm and it makes it perform like a fully automatic firearm. It makes it function like one. And what the NRA has said is we ought to take a look at that, see if it's in compliance with federal law, and it's worthy of additional regulation. That being said, we didn't say ban, we didn't say confiscate.
Wayne, in a lot of ways, people like Brett Stevens and Michael Moore and Nancy Pelosi, they're just revealing what their true intentions have always been. And that is they really don't want the average citizen. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in the right of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. And I just pointed out the great hypocrisy. Most of these people, they have security guards. They have their fortresses at their house. They have people at the self-congratulatory events like the Oscars and Emmys. The average American has one. Usually they have themselves to rely on. Great hypocrisy or no?
Yeah, one thing the American public always knows is the elites always protect themselves, and they always protect themselves with guns. And then they lecture the American public how you shouldn't do that. But in the heart of the American public all over this country, they see these monsters, and they don't want to be alone out there. They want to be able to protect themselves. One of the things that happened in Las Vegas, when they said shelter in place, the first thing that came up when they were sheltered, they said, does somebody have a gun? We saw it with the hurricanes this past week in Texas and Florida and places like that, Louisiana. People are, when the water's rising, when it goes dark, the American public values this freedom to protect themselves. And now you have Dianne Feinstein and Schumer and the media to get this horrible tragedy, and they want to piggyback their whole agenda to ban guns, restrict law-abiding people for the last 20 years, this circus on the back of this tragedy and enact it. And what the NRA is fighting for is reciprocity, enforce the existing federal gun laws, protect the Americans' right to protect themselves.
You know, Wayne, when you crunch the numbers and you look at Chicago and the homicide rate, which we've talked an awful lot. We even actually one night scrolled the names of all the people, and nobody was paying attention. This is Obama's, adopted hometown. It's like one Vegas massacre a month. 3,900 people killed in Chicago while Obama's president. 18,000 shootings. in just the last 6 years of his presidency. Where were these liberal voices then? I didn't hear a word out of them.
That's right. These monsters that were doing that in Chicago, they don't care about the law. What you've got to do is you've got to go in and take them off the street and put them in prisons. I mean, if legislation worked, Boston Massacre wouldn't have happened. San Bernardino, where California has every gun law you can imagine on the books, that wouldn't have happened. In Paris, where they have complete gun bans, that wouldn't have happened. Brussels, all over the world where the people are disarmed, these monsters, these bad guys go about their business. They could care less what laws are on the books. And the good people want to protect themselves. They want to defend themselves. That's why we're fighting for reciprocity, and they want to preserve this freedom that they know the elites protect for themselves and yet would take away from the honest people and the average people. And by gosh, the NRA is not going to let that happen.
The NRA gets a bad rap, and I'm a proud member. But it's just a fact. How many people a year do you teach gun security and safety to? How many people a year have protected the lives of loved ones because they had the ability to defend themselves with a weapon?
Well, that's exactly right, Sean. I mean, we teach millions of people. We spend millions of dollars every year teaching people safety and responsibility. And this Hollywood crowd makes billions of years every single day teaching gun irresponsibility to the American public. The hypocrisy is beyond belief. They criticize me for saying people ought to be able to protect themselves from murderers, rapists, and robbers, and then they make billions depicting every night those same situations. The hypocrisy coming out of Hollywood is beyond belief. The American public doesn't buy into it, and the American public wants to be able to protect themselves from these elitists that protect themselves with the very firearms they would ban for the average citizen.
And I urge people, if they want to learn safety and security of firearms, the NRA does help a lot of people. Wayne, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. When we come back on this busy breaking news night, Newt Gingrich will join us. Also, we had the honor earlier today. We went to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada. We met one of the shooting survivors, Thomas Gunderson. You saw the video of him meeting the president yesterday. It went viral after Thomas got out of his bed despite being shot in the leg to meet and honor the president. He says there was no way he would have laid down when the president came to shake his hand. Also, we had a chance to interview the doctors that saved hundreds of lives. Heroes you want to meet tonight on Hannity from Vegas.
Many people who are serious gun owners say, I have a background check, they should have a background check too. But we can't, that's, so what? They're going to say, if you give them bump stock, it's going to be a slippery slope? I certainly hope so. But I don't think bump stock should be a substitute for the background check. And by the way, the background check is a compromise. There are many more things members want to do.
All right, that was House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi earlier today, hinting that she hopes a congressional ban on the bump stock attachment would be just part of a further gun control, larger legislation. Now, before we get to former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, we had a friend stop by. Hi, what's your name? Hi, Reagan. And how old are you?
I'm 2.
You're 2? And what's your friend's name?
There's the name.
What's the name?
Georgie.
Georgie. All right, can you give me 5? Missed. Give me 5. Ow! Again. Ow! And your dad made this? He's crushing the mainstream media? Is that what that is? New York Times? Oh, my.
You inspired me, sir.
Well, thank you all. Darling, very nice to meet you. You're so pretty and nice. Will you shake my hand? You want to give me 5 again? Ow! Okay, thank you. All right, here with reaction, a little unusual introduction, is the author of the best-selling book, Understanding Trump. He also has a new class that he's teaching online, and it's former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. It's on my website, Hannity.com. I know that's not the usual introduction, Mr. Speaker, but I couldn't resist. As you've been watching this, I want to get your take on everything, your take on the politicizing of it, your take on those that literally have no respect for our Constitution nor any understanding for what real Americans live under, the threat that they have, home invasions, crime, murder, rape that goes on in this country at times?
Well, let me divide it into three different things. First, I frankly still, and I said this to you the other day on your radio show, I still have not fully gotten my head around what happened. I'm a little surprised we haven't learned more from his Facebook, from his tweets, from his emails. I mean, it strikes me that there's a lot of stuff that's not coming out, and I'd be very curious to learn what it is the police are learning that we're not learning. So one, I don't get what actually happened in terms of the killer and what drove him and why it happened, because it was clearly premeditated and thought through and deliberately done. Second, I think that the reaction of the left is pathetically normal. They know they have a chant. They go back to their chant. Nothing they chant about would have changed what happened in Las Vegas. And third, as you just pointed out, you know, the Second Amendment is there for a very powerful reason. And in my course, Defending America, I really outline, I have an entire section of the course on the Second Amendment, why the Founding Fathers put it in, why they thought it was the heart of our freedom, why they would not give it up. And I think nobody on the left gets that anymore. They live in a la-la land where they trust government and wherever all the bureaucrats are good guys and so forth. But I think also, as Wayne LaPierre was pointing out, the fact is we live in a dangerous country. And I was intrigued with your numbers, which I'd never quite heard before. If you look at the disaster of the Obama administration in terms of public safety, particularly in Chicago, it is staggering that we have never had a national debate about the failure of the system in Chicago to protect innocent people, by the way, virtually all of whom are African American. And you would have thought if Black Lives Matter cared about black lives, that one of the places they'd have really targeted would have been Southside Chicago and the terrible death rate that occurs there. And yet we can't have an honest, open conversation about these kind of practical problems.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we know the answer because we know what Rudy Giuliani did in New York. And he brought the murder rate down from about 2,500 to less than 500 a year through targeted, tough policing. Targeted meaning the areas that needed more policing. Right. You know, when 3,900 people die in the course of Obama's presidency, and he mentions it 3 or 4 times at most, I'm thinking there's something radically wrong. Or 18,000 shootings in just the last 6 years of his presidency. Why the silence there? We ran the names of the victims on the show. We scrolled them and went on the whole show.
Well, you know, there's this whole zone. I'm actually trying to work on how to put this together into a understandable package. If you were to look at the number of children, for example, in Baltimore, who failed their 8th grade math and science test, about 13% pass, 87% fail. If you were to add up the 8 years of failure under Obama with no effort to save the lives of these young people, if you were to look, as you just pointed out, at Southside Chicago. But by the way, there's a small part of St. Louis that is more violent than any other area in the United States. In fact, it's about as violent as the most dangerous cities in Honduras, which are routinely ranked as the most dangerous in the world. For some reason, none of this penetrates the elite news media. It doesn't fit their particular narrative.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I had a chance to spend some time today at the hospital, and later on we actually interviewed doctors. They set up like a military triage, and they saved hundreds of lives on this night. And it was all hands on deck, and I'll let them explain it for them. There was this young man, Thomas Gunderson was his name, and I met him and I met his parents, and he's the young man that stood for the president, even though he'd been shot in the leg. And I was thinking about comments that you had made about the NFL and taking a knee and the people that fought, bled, and died fighting under our flag. And I was thinking, you know, this young man could really teach a lot of people a lesson here. And you got to wonder if maybe now we'll remember what police do for us. We remembered on 9/11 and these policemen going to this 32nd floor facing an automatic weapon. And this young man hurt will stand for his president, his country, and his flag. You think the NFL learns from this?
I don't know. They might. You know, I saw the most stunning single thing I saw in social media was a veteran from Afghanistan who had lost his leg at the knee and who posted a picture and said, for all the guys at the NFL, this is what taking a knee for your country means. And I thought, wow, what a distinction between a guy who had risked his life for America, wearing a uniform with an American flag, who was still proud to be an American, and these guys who are making millions of dollars a year who don't mind disrespecting the national anthem and the American flag. I thought it was the most devastating single thing I saw about the whole NFL controversy.
You know, I want to go back to a minute to what's going on here. It seems almost impossible in this day and age of social media, this enigma. This man's like a ghost. We can't find out anything about him. And it just makes me wonder, does your gut tell you, my gut tells me there's something much, much deeper going on here that we haven't even begun to touch the surface on. Your thoughts?
I don't understand what the FBI and the local police are doing. You go back and look at other occasions where you had killings, Santa Barbara, and within a day or two we begin to learn things about their social media. I don't get any sense of this guy's social media. I don't have any sense of his political contributions. I don't get any sense of who he emailed with or what websites he went to. I don't understand the total absence of understanding what motivated him, what created this moment, and yet you know that he was deeply enough determined that he went in there, I think, 4 days in advance. He took all of those weapons in there. He set up cameras into the hallway. I mean, there's something that doesn't match up here.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, as always, for being with us. We appreciate it. All right, when we come back, earlier today, I went to the University Medical Center here in Southern Nevada. I met Thomas Gunderson. He was shot Sunday night during the massacre. He met the president, and the video of him greeting the president went viral because he refused to stay in his bed despite his leg injury to shake the president's hand. We spoke to his parents. And you'll meet tonight the hero doctors that saved hundreds of lives. Incredible people, as Hannity continues tonight from Vegas. And welcome back to Hannity. We're reporting from Las Vegas tonight. Yesterday, President Trump, the First Lady, Melania Trump, they flew to Vegas and they met with the victims of this massacre. One of the survivors that they spoke to was Thomas Gunderson. Thomas was shot in the leg on Sunday night, but despite his injury, Thomas made sure he got out of bed to greet the president. He explained this on Facebook. He said, "I will never lie down when the president of this great country comes to shake my hand. There may be plenty of issues in this country, but I will always respect my country, my president, my flag, and shot in the leg or not, I will stand to show my president the respect he deserves." Earlier today, we did in fact have the honor to go to University Medical Center in Southern Nevada. We spoke with Thomas Gunderson. Watch this. Thomas!
How's it going, buddy?
How are you?
Doing well.
I know I'm not the president. I apologize in advance.
That's why I'm not standing up.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Can you believe the president comes here yesterday? First of all, you believe what happened. I'm very, very sorry. How you feeling?
Honestly, I'm okay. I mean, can't quite walk yet, but I'm going to get there.
Was it the president or the First Lady that got you to walk?
I was the First Lady, if I'm being honest. No,
right?
No, you know, I told my family, the President of the United States comes in this room, no matter who the president is, you stand up and you shake their hand and show them the respect that they deserve. You know, that's how it works.
It's a little hard when you were shot in the leg.
No, I mean, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't like I stood the whole time. You know, I just wanted to show them respect.
You know what? That went viral, and I agree with you. 100%. Let's talk a little bit about. So you're out, you're having fun. I love country music too. So you're at the concert.
Yeah.
You remember obviously what happened? Where were you? What happened?
I remember everything. But when it first started going off, it was like everybody thought it was fake. Or not, I shouldn't say fake. It sounded like it was the speakers malfunctioning, or maybe somebody setting off firecrackers. I mean, even Jason Aldean played for another 15, 20 seconds. The moment he started to run, And the crowd started screaming, and then that's when I realized kind of what was going on.
Where were you in relation to the stage?
I was pretty far. I mean, I was on the east side of the stage, maybe 100, 200 feet back. There's a lot of railings and bars and stuff like that in between.
And that's when you got hit?
No, I didn't get hit till I was probably one of the last people to get hit. I've spent the entire 20 minutes in there. Listen, I think everybody in their own right is a hero for, they did what they had to do. And I hear more and more stories, of amazing things people did. Honestly, amazing things people did. So yeah, we did that. And then at that point, it was, like I said, it was about the end of it. It seemed, not that it was over, but almost everybody was kind of out of there. And the rounds were still going off, and we weren't seeing any gunshots. And I think our minds were so just focused on getting people out or finding him that we didn't really see the bodies around us. And we looked at each other and we said, "Oh, it's fake. Somebody's messing with us." About 10 of us said that. Right. And so I stood out in the open.
These aren't people you knew. People you just met.
People all just that were looking to help, And at that point, I looked behind me and I saw gunfire coming from the hotel, and that was perfectly just lined up, or flashes, I have to say, that was just perfectly lined up with.
And you saw it from about that floor?
No, I thought it was a completely different floor.
Lower?
I could have sworn that it was center of the hotel, about 15 floors up. Could have been the reflection, the way that's set up.
Yeah, the way that is set up is.
And right then and there, my mind was like, uh-oh, and boom, shot through the leg.
Most people won't experience that. What does that feel like?
I can't tell what everybody else felt. For me, I didn't feel it. I knew I was shot, but my body took over and numb. I hit the ground and there was just blood everywhere. Mm-hmm. For me, I didn't really feel it. Your adrenaline's just going nuts.
Talk about your injury and your prognosis.
Honestly, I'm so blessed. It went straight through the calf. It didn't hit an artery or bone. The nerves and muscles are pretty torn up. So I can't lift my foot to 90 degrees yet. And
wait a minute, you did lift your foot for Melania Trump.
What foot wouldn't?
Exactly. I'm getting this tape to the president. I'm going to say you got competition. So the president walks in.
Yeah.
The first lady walks in to see you. What was that like?
Very surreal. Very just honoring. Honestly, I'd heard that he just flew in from Puerto Rico. Literally just came from there. I don't care what anybody has to say to me, man. He cared. He wanted to listen to me and shake my hand and thank me and just was so awesome. And Melania was so sweet. And to me, it felt like they genuinely cared about the people here and what happened.
I can tell you the whole country is praying for you and for all these other families. There's some families that lost their loved ones, others in this hospital. Yeah. This is a severe injury. There are worse injuries.
I'm so blessed. Honestly, I got off easy, and if that's the one thing, like the one message I could send to people is find the people who lost loved ones and just love on them and show them support, because
they're going to need it.
I got off easy, and but there's a lot of positivity going around, and I hope people can focus on that, because I've seen an incredible amount of love sent my way.
It's hard. This is like life-changing for you.
It is.
This is a moment where you're never going to be the same.
It's true, and I'm trying to do my best to use this stage to give a good message. It's not about fame, and I want people to know that. I happen to be in this hospital, happen to be able to meet the president.
But it's really good for America. I just want to say this to you. When you hear that somebody said, "Okay, I got my friends to safety, let me help other people," that shows how great we are. This country's great, and people like you make it great because you put other people ahead of yourself.
Everybody in there was great. Everybody did what they had to do, and everybody responded in the way they needed to respond, and everybody should feel honored for what they did.
We played about an hour before Jason got on stage. Big and Rich were on, and I've been friends with both of them, John Rich Moore, for many years.
Yeah.
Everybody had their cell phone up. I'll show you the video if you haven't seen it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
An hour later, you think this happens. Like, everyone's together. Yeah. Then you got a big political fight in the country, and everyone's, does that bother you when you see that?
No, I'm not going to give in to that. I can tell you, obviously, my video has gone viral, and there's a lot of comments, and probably 80–90% are beautiful comments and support, and I appreciate it so much. And there are some just horrific comments, and I'm reading every single one of them, and I'm not going to give in to that. And
I get about 60% negative on my Facebook.
I feel for you, because it doesn't always feel good, but you know what, man? You respond in love, and there's nothing they can do with that.
You know, meeting people like you, it inspires me too, and it reminds me of some of the military guys. I mean, you know, I'm sure in the days that you're going to be laid up here a little bit, and you obviously are getting back on your feet. If not, we'll call the First Lady, say, Melania, come back out to Vegas. Yeah. But, you know, they go through all this every day. You know, so it makes you appreciate. I know that you appreciate
First thing I did was text, actually, my Marine buddy, Ken Fuqua, man. He's an awesome man, and first thing I did was text him and just talk to him, and I mean, he's gone through this multiple times, you know, and I just wanted to talk to him because there's no one in the world I respect more than our military. They just don't. So those are our heroes for sure.
Yeah. And they give us the freedom to go to these concerts.
Absolutely. I feel special. I feel lucky because of that. So it's hard, you know. Those are the real heroes.
Thomas, just an incredible young man. When we come back, his parents, the worst thing that can happen, that call you get. Plus, while we were at the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, we spoke to the hospital's CEO, 2 of the trauma doctors that saved hundreds of lives that day. Also tonight, as we are ongoing, a candlelight vigil underway for a Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer who, in fact, was killed during Sunday's massacre. Take a look.